So I guess a little bit of background. I started beekeeping in 2010, mainly for these apple trees. I got one hive from Tim after the presentation at Gardening for Everyone, which is going on later today.
Yep.
And I was like, well, I'm going to get one hive, and then they were kind of talking about how it might be better to have two hives. And so before I even got my first bees, I got another hive and ordered another package. And started that year and had pretty good success, didn't treat them at all, and then had one of them die the next year, but the other one made it. So I was kind of trying to remain treatment-free, and I continued with that for a little while, and I realized that the mites are just a far more mobile pest than I was giving them credit for. So you can't really let this colony collapse from mites and have this strong colony over here and let evolution take place like you would kind of maybe think it would, because this strong hive is going to rob your weak hive and take all those mites over there. And I kind of figured this out through mite counts, which actually I should have pulled a couple of these, because I did an oxalic acid treatment on these two hives up here yesterday and put a fresh board under there with a little bit of, I rub a little bit of cooking oil on there just to make sure the mites really stick. I've done some drone comb removal, where you take the drone comb out, and I had one I was telling Suzanne about a little while ago that I actually left it in my shop for 4 days. I meant to leave it in the freezer, and I didn't put it in the freezer, and I got back down after 4 days, and I thought, well, this would be an interesting experiment to see if the mites are still alive in there. Uncapped these cells, started pulling out drones, and sure enough, there was live mites in there. Not only live, but extremely healthy. I had this tweezers, and was trying to shake it off. I took a little video, but it's not posting very well. Anyway, through counting those mites and seeing, hey, this colony over here in September had a pretty good mite load, and now this colony over here collapsed on its way into November, and the level of mites in your healthy colony has gone up a level that just can't, it can't really happen through natural reproduction, especially when the mites don't have those drone cells to mate in, because the mites are essentially mating at 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 in a drone cell, and they're mating at 1-to-1 in a worker cell. So that's part of why their population can ramp up so high in the spring.
Much like boys and not girls.
Yeah. So basically now, I'm still trying to use primarily oxalic acid. I started using hop guard strips 2 years ago. Well, 3 falls ago now. So I had pretty good luck with those, kind of mimicking WSU's approach of putting in a few hop guard strips at some warm intervals right at the end of November and the end of December, when you have very little capped brood in there. And the one thing I've heard about that, though, too, is that it's not a high enough temperature for the hop beta acid to be effective, because all of these things have temperature ranges where they're vaporizing or active or more effective. But WSU seems to be having good luck with it, and that was one of their only treatments. They did start dribbling oxalic acid and vaporizing oxalic acid recently.
Rick, are you doing anything on moisture control?
I'm going to make some boxes like you've got. Last year, I had some of those top feeders, and I tried, basically since I already had those top feeders, I didn't have a box to go on there. I messed with a few different kinds of materials, putting them in there, basically taking that, I think there's a top feeder around, but putting some wood chips in there, tried towels, things. It did seem to work okay, because it gave the moisture, oh, here's one right over here. Yeah, it's right there on top of the pipes right there. Basically kind of, I think it just kind of gave the moisture someplace to go, and then when it did condense on the top, instead of dropping back down on the inner cover, it's dropping back down into that tub. So the one thing there, though, is it doesn't have any vent holes. Like you were mentioning having a larger vent hole on there. This doesn't really have any vent holes. So basically this is just a feeder tub thing. So I I also start because it's got a little more space. I could put a
Candy board.
sugar candy on top of the inner cover in there. Sometimes I put it underneath the inner cover too. I kind of like leaving it on the top just so sugar's never dripping down on them.
One
But
thing that we found with the candy boards is that candy will also help absorb the moisture
yeah,
inside the hive.
yeah,
But what moisture that doesn't absorb then goes up through the burlap and the cedar shavings and collects in on the top of the inner lid. And it can't rain back down through all of that stuff.
right.
So
So yeah, I think it was a little effective, but I'd like to get the cloth on the bottom and have the holes. I guess one other hybrid idea would be maybe to give a little bit of a shim up there, and you'd have
you see, if it was me, I think I'd take that feeder trough clear out. That's the right height. That's perfect height
yeah,
for your moisture
pop the
box.
plastic out.
Take the
yeah.
whole thing out and then screen it on the bottom.
I'm kind of thinking about that. You'll see a couple of these deployed where I've got sugar water on one side with the float, and then sugar candy on this other side. And even with that float, I noticed this material's so slick.
Right.
They were just clawing at it. So then I put a screen in underneath the float. So I don't know. Overall, I'm not entirely happy with these things. The things that I really liked about them were that you could come by in the evening and I could feed some sugar water to the ones that needed it, and not have to worry about robbing bees all around, and not actually cracking into the hive. Whereas those in-frame ones, you're having to move the inner cover. I do try to keep those inner frame ones on the same side, so I know when I'm coming up to the hive, I can scoot the inner cover this way, and I'm going to be at my feeder. So, but in general, yeah, I made some floats for those in-frame feeders this year that seem to be working pretty good. I don't know. Does anybody have any questions? So yeah, I guess the current situation though too is there's some new queens that I introduced to some of these hives. Well, I guess I could just show you what the different ones are so you know what you're looking at. These two over here were a large, healthy colony that Suzanne and I actually split as part of my journeyman inspection this year. So that was a walk-away split where there was some queen cups in there that didn't have eggs in there, but we moved a bunch of eggs over to the hive on the right. So that hive on the right has a brand new queen. The hive on the left has a successful queen that made it through last year. Those ones, I use mostly medium stuff now because I do natural comb. Also, they're mostly carnies, so you'll see these are smaller sizes, but
Now, most all the hives are natural comb.
yep.
Okay.
I mean, they're in their way of being worked out of natural comb. So when you're looking, you'll find plastic, you'll find wax foundation, and you'll
Keep
find.
that in mind when we're pulling frames. There could be some that are natural.
Yeah. Sorry, I wanted to. Real quick. So natural comb was one of my other ideas that I kind of wanted to play around with, and it's kind of a way to have some of the advantages of a top bar system without actually converting from your standard equipment you already have. But the disadvantage to that is that they're going to draw whatever they want to draw. Like this one's it's like honeycomb or drone comb. But another thing is, at first I didn't know how to cinch these wires very well. So you'll see it's just got it kind of sagged, you know? So not exactly happy with the way those ended up getting drawn, but I found these, that crimper tool. There's a little tool with I brought it over, but it's got two wheels on it, and you run it along the wire. Also with a brood frame like this, I could actually stretch it enough to get this wire kind of taut, and then this gets it real taut. I found in the supers that the wires, it's not all that effective. The nice thing about the supers is that the frame actually does hold together a little better when you got that natural comb, because a lot of times they will support it at the bottom. So that's one thing to watch out for too. Some of the ones that don't have wires, you got to treat it kind of like a top bar thing where you want to keep it like this. If you go like this or like this, depending on what the temperature is, you could break the comb off, especially if it's not attached very well on the sides. So this is kind of like what we're talking about here, where they've actually drawn, these are some queen cups that they drew, but like this one, if you were to pull this frame up, you could end up scraping this whole piece along there. So if you're kind of attacking it cautiously though, and you can pull these both at the same time and then separate them like this. Or what I was saying too is if there's two that are really intermingled and maybe they've drawn honeycomb way over here, let's just not break those two apart. I mean, earlier in the season, I would try to break those apart, maybe shave them, get them to like recap them. But this time of the year, if there's a bunch of honey over here, because they will end up doing some ridiculously deep cells sometimes in these natural frames. They'll do like a honey cell that's like this deep sometimes, and so they'll draw off of one that they already have going. You know, they'll draw the one next to here way over into this one. You know, in one spot. But let's see. Yeah, I guess that's kind of natural comb. Yeah, and so it takes 7 pounds of honey to make 1 pound of wax. So sometimes you don't get it. You don't get it all drawn out. It's a
Either that or you got some slacker bees.
yeah. So
Have enough food? Do they need to be fed extra? Do they need to be consolidated down to a smaller number of boxes? Or maybe even combined into one strong hive that has a better chance of getting through the winter. So we got to get in there and assess their situation. Now Rick wrote us some nice little notes here. He said 2 weeks ago, both of these colonies had great brood patterns. The new queen and the old queen both were healthy, and so he didn't want to do anything to combine them yet. However, he said he noticed a lot of deformed wings on some of the bees, which you know can be a sign of varroa mites. So he treated
Some of his
yesterday
graffiti
with
there.
oxalic acid.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested in.
Right. So he wants to look at the lower frames and make sure he's not
That's cool.
damaging with the wax too much. So that's going to be a really interesting thing to see. Have any of you treated with oxalic yet?
Not,
I have all this stuff to do it, but I haven't done it yet because I want to see
Right.
someone else do it.
Right, that's pretty much where I'm at with it.
Okay.
So
Just got done building my vaporizer yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah.
on the right
Yeah.
with the honeybee
Except
box
rock
on the
honey.
bottom. Okay, right, that's
I just got to hook it up to a battery and see if it heats up now.
okay.
It's going to get warm.
So,
the pollen
one thing
coming
I did yesterday, and this is something that we've been talking about in the club for a little while, although we're not always so scrupulous about it, is that when we're going from our own apiary to somebody else's apiary, it's a good idea to clean the hive tools, because you just never know what kind of pathogens you might be bringing into somebody else's hive. So this little tool soaked in boiling water, I took a metal brush and scrubbed off all the propolis, which was quite a long contract, as you can imagine. And it's probably a good thing to do even when you're going from one hive to another in your own apiary. So,
So do you think bleach water would do the same?
yeah, I think bleach is a real good approach.
I've stuck mine through the dishwasher before, hoping
Oh,
that
yeah,
it would just
that'll
come
work.
clean and nope.
Propolis is like the gift that keeps on giving in
Yes.
life. Now, I didn't bring a smoker along. I know that I should probably use a smoker more than I do,
Propolis come off or
but
not?
let's see.
Yeah,
Let's
alcohol
get
probably
this
help break it down.
Wow.
We're going to put this upside down over here so that if we have to do any box moving, we can put it right into there.
There seems to be a lot of little crawly
can
things.
we take a look and see what our mite drop is right off the bat
I
there?
think we probably should do that, yeah. So he didn't say what time yesterday he put them in, but let's just look at this. Right away I can see
Yeah.
mites. So the oxalic, oh, you can see the oxalic crystals here too. That's cool. Look at that. Hey, Cody, do you want to
Yep.
get like a close-up on this thing?
Get out of the sun. Yeah,
Our
there.
photographer here.
You can get a big glare.
There you go.
Very nice.
Yeah. So I've never seen the oxalic crystals before up close like this. That's what they look like when they land down on the bottom board.
toxic to human touch?
Well, probably. That's a
After
good
oxalic acid has been burned, it's a neutral.
Substance, really?
Yeah, it's a neutral substance because it's already been vaporized.
Because I know you can use it. I think you dilute it in water and bleach wood with it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
wood.
I think it's when
wood
it's in
bleach.
vapor form that it's toxic to us.
Yeah, that's because we
And
can
so
breathe
that's
it in.
yeah, so that's why you
Yeah.
have to have the vaporized.
Dewey
the mask.
Karen was saying at our let's see, at our August meeting, that when you do this stuff, you want to have a really good respirator.
Rare, yeah.
Because it can really mess up your
Yeah,
lung
and you have
tissue.
to have the organic
But,
filters, the organic
Rhubarb
filters.
has a lot of oxalic acid in it.
Oh, does it?
Leaves.
I think that's where they get
There are
this.
dozens of mites on this thing.
Yeah,
Suzanne,
there's-
have you guys ever had a guy named Danny come from?
You know, I have a message into Danny. We're gonna
Danny,
try to,
yeah.
Danny Najera. We're gonna try to get him to come
He's-
down.
Oh, he's had him twice, and he's about the most entertaining speaker I've ever.
I've heard that about him.
And his
I've heard that about him.
So you thinking Rick's taller than you are?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Come on over.
He didn't make that any too easy for you.
Let's put it back in so that Rick can see it. Hello, girls.
Where do you want this?
Seeing any
Suzanne, right here?
Yeah.
Tell you what, I'm gonna move to the front of the hive. Usually I don't stand in front of the
Get
hive.
out of your way
This little
when you're trying to shoot.
fine. Okay. Yeah, I'm a little height challenged. This is going to be interesting.
Well, this side here is closer.
Okay.
There's a stool over there to your right. If that'll help you any.
I wasn't gonna mention her
How about the
vertically
survivability of the
challengedness.
stool or her?
Yeah, I think I might want to stay off. Now, if Gottfried Fritz were here, he would be saying, use the smoke, Luke. And he's got a really good point with that, but I have a personal thing about not really liking the smoke of bees very much. I like to try the sugar water approach instead. Oh, well,
I
girls.
use sugar water all the time.
I use both. It's depending how deep I'm going. If I'm going way in,
The shorter
Yeah, we got a little patty action going on here.
oh yeah, pollen patty on there,
I don't know
doesn't
if
he?
do we want to?
They're really enjoying it.
They do enjoy it.
Now, Suzanne, I noticed that your sugar water's on a heavy stream. I use mine on like a mist.
I
mean-
know. I usually do that too, but the thing is sort of reaching the end of its useful life, and I'm going to have to replace it.
Okay, I was just wondering, if there was some
That would
trick
be
to
awesome.
it.
Thank you. Who
Yeah,
says you
mine
can't
gets
inspect it?
funny.
I'm
Had to
calling
buy
by
a new one.
committee. Yes,
They
you
just
can.
wouldn't mist anymore.
Perhaps we should look at the ones
I
coming
like the
out.
large pump ones.
Yeah. They seem
Yeah.
pretty mellow.
Buy the cheap dollar store ones and you can throw them away.
As long as I don't have any holes in my arm.
really see anything for wing.
You hold it with your left hand, I'll get the frame with your left hand, I'll get this one.
Because one great thing about bees is that they do like to go. They do like to go.
Ready?
Oh boy, yeah, I'm gonna rip open too much of that honey. Yeah, you see, this is what Rick was talking about with the little communication holes that they leave there. Oh, dead girl.
They do like them on the bottom, don't
Yeah,
they?
they do. And that's probably a good thing because it makes it easier for them to go from frame to frame in the winter so that they can take advantage of the food
And see the
supply.
communication holes on the sides?
What now?
See the communication hole by your left thumb?
Yeah, I do.
Mine are mostly like
Nice
that
little
on the
ones.
sides.
I use
Nice little tiny
plastic
ones, very
foundation.
cute.
I cut all four corners off of my foundation and I take a pretty good chunk out of them so that
Do
there's
you want this?
always have
peeled
them.
up?
Yeah, we better peel that up. Sorry, girls. We're not taking your food away. We're just
Oh, that's
moving it.
pollen, right?
That's the pollen patty, yeah.
Are you taking all of these out? These frames?
We'll get to them one
So just set it over on the inner cover
Yeah,
for
there's-
right
Yeah,
now.
that's a good idea. Let's just stick it under the cover.
Same with that sugar block and then
Sorry, girls.
Your hamburgers will come back, don't worry.
Let's see if I spread this out a little more.
Here,
Okay, we're gonna go over to hive setup number 2.
Okay. Let's just take it off. And we'll close these girls up and then we can go mosey over and take a look at another. Basically, my assessment of these colonies is that they're both doing pretty well for the winter. I would just want to make sure to keep feeding them.
The food, yeah,
At
that's
this point,
yeah.
while they can take advantage.
There's this one down in that one. Is it still dropped?
Yeah, it's
Now it dropped in also.
Oh, it looks short.
it may be a short. That's right. He was telling me that he had a couple of short frames.
That's about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's just Mecca close, and then they'll have vertical things. And so yeah,
Sorry, guys.
through the next month, if he just keeps on feeding them, they'll stow away the food supplies, and hopefully these colonies will do well through the winter. He's going to treat again with the oxalic acid and keep knocking down the mites.
Yeah.
The thing with that is that the mites will hatch out with all the baby bees that are hatching out. If there's mites in there, they'll hatch out. So like about every 7 days, if you treat with the oxalic, you do it 3 times, then you've gotten through the brood cycle, and hopefully you're knocking down most of the mites.
Otherwise, you have to wait until December when it's
Right.
broodless, right?
Right. And you can do it again then too. Yeah, and probably a lot of us will end up doing that. Oxalic acid just became legal for use as a varroa treatment about a year ago. And a lot of people are saying it's making a big, big difference in beating back the varroa mites.
Have you guys been able to find it here? I had to order mine online. I wasn't able to find any.
The vaporizer or the actual acid?
The actual acid.
Home Depot?
I tried Home Depot and Ace Hardware. Somebody told me to try Ace Hardware.
No,
What did you ask for?
they don't even carry it anymore.
Wood bleach?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they didn't
have.
I even went online and I couldn't see it there.
I had to order it
Yeah,
online.
I got mine from Amazon.
Yeah, me
Got
too.
one, but, you know,
But
it's hard not to get any.
Wow, because I bought wood bleach for
Did you see the
bleaching
sugar on
some,
top of the
I did.
hog patty?
This is an
some
interesting
teak wood
patty here.
last year.
Yeah.
I bought it at Home
This is
Depot in
what
Lacey.
you
And
can
you got
get.
it?
Yeah.
See, and I checked here. Maybe
That's what a lot of
I
us
mean,
do.
maybe they have
In
it
the
in Lacey.
wintertime,
I don't know,
right?
but I
It
checked
doesn't
here and
put
couldn't find
moisture
it.
in the
Yeah.
hive that's-
What
that's
time?
gonna
Like at what?
Well,
point
at Home Depot here, I asked him, he goes, huh?
Yeah, that's what I got too. I was like, okay,
I would
I'm
say
getting nowhere quickly.
early
You don't know
October.
what the wood
Yeah,
is.
you got nowhere
It's going to
quickly.
vary some from year to year. If we had like an Indian summer, if we had a warmish October, I would keep feeding the liquid.
Anyway, I got a
But,
pretty
you know,
good sized bag and
For
I
sure
just
change
yeah.
in the
finished
fall.
up building
then
my
it's only,
wet fall.
only the
vaporizer
hard
yesterday.
stuff.
So
Excuse me.
That's when we give
Yeah.
the hard stuff.
I was kind of wondering, like, how long it lasts. I'm wondering because
Classic coping mechanism.
what I ordered online was a huge bag,
oh, it'll last you for.
forever. It seems like.
I just
So-
Of course they are.
keep it in
That's
something
what they do.
airtight
Yeah,
so it doesn't oxidize.
yeah.
Just a minute here.
If anybody needs any, they can.
At this point in the season, is there any kind of extra pest issues as far as
Yellow jacket.
hive
Yellow
problem?
jacket.
Yellow
It's two
jacket?
things. Yellow jackets are going to be attracted because they're running out of natural food. They're going to start looking for both brood and honey out of the hives. They'll eat pretty much anything they can get. They're opportunists. The other thing is the varroa mites, because as we get into this time of the year, the bees are they're gonna start reproducing less. So as the bee population goes down, that means the mites that are hatching and continuing to hatch, their population is going to go up because they don't shut down for the winter. So you got to watch out because that's when the mites can really crash a colony. That's why Rick's been testing to see if they've got mites and treating for it, to knock them down now so that they can't just wipe them out in the wintertime. So those are, I think, the two really big things.
So what, as far as the yellow jackets dealing with that, I mean, what can you do to?
You know, honestly, I think the best thing to do with the yellow jackets is in the early spring. Put traps up in the early spring, because what happens with the yellow jackets is it's the queens that overwinter and they hatch out first. And so the queens have to feed themselves for a while. And if you can catch them, basically it's like kill them before they multiply, literally.
I start February 1st and I put out 2-liter bottles with 3 bees. Bacon, beer, and brewer's yeast.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put it all inside there, shake it up, and the brewer's yeast will activate with the beer, and the bacon will rot, and it'll stink real bad.
they love
and the
that.
queens are attracted to that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's
Old fish
nasty.
parts work really well
yeah.
too.
Little bits of like raw hamburger meat and stuff.
Yeah.
Winchester or Remington.
I knew one beekeeper who
When they're
put
really
raw
big.
hamburger meat on top of soapy water, and then they'd come in zeroing in on the hamburger meat, and they'd drown in the soapy water.
Yeah,
Soap would trap them.
it breaks the water tension on the water. Just
Yeah.
add a couple drops.
And it's nice using meat because then these guys aren't attracted to it.
Exactly.
If you don't use something like that, they will get in those traps.
Yeah.
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 Not a huge number of them, but
So here they are.
Well, it's
Hey, Jordan, if you want to come around the front, there's some nice pictures to be had of the pollen baskets. They're bringing back yellow.
So is that people?
We got some good colors up here.
Yeah.
See the one right there?
Yep. Orange.
Neon yellow, orange.
Yep.
Yellow.
I'm not sure what it is that's yielding the orange, but they're digging it. They're bringing it back.
Bet you
And
it's
yellow
squash.
also. Could be. Very well could be. So these are two real nice healthy colonies. You know, there is that deformed wing thing that we saw in the one, but he's addressing it, doing what he can to help him survive.
This time next year, it'll have a completely different complexion.
Yep.
It'll be full of stuff, not just a little here and there.
Yep. Yep. Now you see him beard on the front a little bit. That's because we just inspected. They're all a little bit upset. They're figuring out getting back in. So, but in about 10 minutes, they'll be pretty much back to normal.
And it's getting warmer.
With my
There's
bees
that too, yeah.
and the top bar hives, if you are gentle with what you're doing, they don't get real upset.
They really don't. I mean, I don't think anybody got stung while we were doing this. And I'm wearing really light pants that would be very easy for them to sting through.
Rick did.
So far, they didn't.
I've
Rick
got
stung?
4 hives and only one of them do I really have to worry about. But that one hive, just approaching it, they're out here challenge you right away. It's like, whoa!
You know, it's funny how
Can you
that
reclean
is.
that though and change that?
Yes, you could. And that's I'm thinking about recleaning my garden rolls that I'm about to rechristen the mean rolls because every time I even go near them, they sting me. You know, last week I was putting the first buckets of sugar water on all my bees. And I'm going into the garden, all of them are just like, oh, thank you, yum, 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 yum. And they're already starting to eat on it while I'm putting it down. The garden girls, I'm putting the sugar on, and they're coming after me.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm trying to help you.
They don't appreciate that.
No.
I got stung
Like,
28
I'm
times
grateful.
last year,
Oh yeah.
and probably 20
Go
of them
near them
were
and they'll chase you
Yeah.
100 yards out. It's like,
I've had, when we lived at our old house, I had a hive like that. It was
Most of the time, if they're getting real pissy and start frapping your face mask, and stuff, just walk away 10, 15 feet or so, and they'll stop and go back.
oh, this one hive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had one.
I found that mean
50
bees
yards, they were chasing.
make more honey.
But my other
Well, I'm sort of
Yeah, I think
don't want to
that's
do
true,
anything with it
right?
because I'm not sure.
Yes.
Until I do a Brolomite count on them, I want to know what the mean bees do with the Brolomite.
Another thing I've been doing is actually
You know, just to see if they're more aggressive towards everything, you know.
Last year's